Welcome, everybody. Happy 2026. It is crazy to say that it is already this far into January, but home stretch for anybody in deep in 1099s or year end or anything like that. So, that being said, we're going to keep this one a little bit more open, free flowing, and this is kind of an ask us anything. So, we'll dive deeper into some questions, both from anybody live here and pre-submitted. But if we are new faces or you heard about this from somewhere else and you haven't met us before, hello, welcome, friend. We're super excited to have you. We started Hughes and Strong simply because we both avoided our work by doing the fun stuff like formatting SOPs and setting up a brand new system like Double, and keeping up with all of the updates and stuff like that with, ooh, there's this new button and stuff like that. So we took and capitalized on that nerdiness, and this is what we get to specialize in right now, is just being the people who get to play with the system, who get to know all the ins and outs. That does not mean that we are perfect and we know every answer, but that does mean that we can at least shoot you in the right direction like a librarian. So that's a little bit about Hughes and Strong and why we are here to nerd out with you guys today. That being said, one thing that's really important to us, and please forgive me if you've been on before and you've heard the spiel, but it's really important to us to be careful about what you put on your plate, especially in a season like this. Like, this is not necessarily the season that we need to take a whole page long of notes about things that we want to update in Double and implement them tomorrow. If you were in the season where you have the space and time, awesome. Do that, follow that train. But otherwise, let's be really careful about what we could put on our plate versus what we should put on our plate to be a good business owner or to use Double to its fullest. Like, let's just be careful with the expectations that we set on ourselves. And that also means that we're taking off the external pressure to know everything too. So pressure off for everybody involved. And that being said, let's go ahead and roll forward. And so this one's going to be a little bit different in some ways, that we don't have a deep dive that we're diving into. We're kind of bouncing around. But that being said, drop your questions in any time. This can be a feature that you're like, oh, I've heard about this, but I just haven't gotten a chance to dive into it yet. This can be something that you're running into and you're curious if there's a workaround. This can just be, do you have any tips for somebody in this kind of situation? So we are here for you. This full hour is open for any questions, any brainstorming, anything that comes up. So drop those into the chat anytime they come up. Don't feel like you have to wait till the end, and we'll cycle through those and some of the pre-submitted questions. One more piece of housekeeping before we get rolling. Recording for today's call is going to be up and posted on our YouTube video on Friday and then sent out in an email. So if you have to jet at some point or come in and out, or you're eating lunch and you missed something and you want to go back, that'll be available for the recording. So that's easy to go back to. Alrighty. With that being said, did mention that this is going to be an Ask Us Anything, but what that means is we're going to tackle some pre-submitted questions that we got from the Facebook group, from our community, and then we're going to kind of filter in some of those questions that we get through the chat and other ways, just to make sure that everybody gets their question answered today. But today will be a bouncing around kind of day. And with that, we're going to go ahead and dive into our live demo. So this is a working demo inside of Double. That doesn't mean that we have everything in here. So we may pop across some things that we got to go back to an old version, because we also need to update everything just like everybody else's system. But we're going to stay in our demo so that we can show some of those tangible pieces as we talk through stuff today. And Jody, are you ready for our first question?
Let's roll.
Beautiful. Okay, I asked you that and I was not ready. Hold on. Getting all my slides ready. Okay, here we go. All right. So, first and foremost, we're going to cover roles. So that is what is traditionally called like prepare reviewer manager here inside of Double. And I'm going to say on the front end, I'm really retraining my brain to say Double. Keeper's going to slip out every once in a while. So we're talking about the same system here, but let's go ahead and start with prepare reviewer manager to give you an overview of what those roles tangibly do beyond just showing little bubbles on the client list.
Yes. So speaking of the little bubbles on the client list, I have them hidden right now. I'm going to show them. So this is just, yep, here we go. All right, let me get those back on my screen. So here we go. Prepare reviewer, manager. These are assignees here for each client. Before we dive in too far, I'm going to tell you where to turn these on if you don't have them turned on, where you can kind of edit the settings for this. So if we come up to the settings wheel, our practice settings up here in the top right, and we go to workflows, you have the option to turn these on or turn them off. So if you are a solo person, everything's assigned to you anyways, you probably don't want these turned on. Or maybe you're only going to be using one of them. So you can toggle on or off any of these. If you use a different name, so maybe you don't use prepare, reviewer, manager, maybe you use junior and senior bookkeeper. Um, you can change the names. So right here is an override assignees label. Toggle this on, and then you can name these anything that you want. If you have just one word, then it's going to be one letter. That's what you guys saw on our client list. It just had the P, R, and M. But if you space and have another things to say, this one is a bookkeeper, and I want my thing to say BK at the top. I could just do this. This is a little workaround I did for somebody else. Save labels. So now on it, it's gonna say, oh, it's gonna refresh. Hmm, Let me refresh it. It'll update to say BK. Um, so you can kind of customize what these roles are uh, named and whether to have them turned on or not. Oh, I didn't save it when I added it. Bookkeeper, manager, reviewer. So now you can see I've got BK up here. So whatever you put in there, it'll do up to 2 letters. So 1 letter or 2 letters, depending on how you have that plugged in there. So you can customize that for yours. But this is a great way to use to filter things. If you're using templates or you have a transition with users and who's covering something, then you can update these and change them and bulk reassign things within the close. So I'm getting a little bouncing all over the place. Erica, reeling back in
Yeah,
on what
you're
else
good.
you want to
I'll kind
highlight
of give
here.
the bullet points because you did a great job kind of explaining the tangibles. So, from a high level on the client list, we can see who's assigned in those roles and be able to filter and show just the clients that I'm managing. Okay, so that's kind of our 10,000 foot view. The additional thing that that comes with is inside of our templates, instead of assigning a specific user, if that's going to change client by client, but it's this type of role, the junior bookkeeper always does this, the manager always does this, but that person is going to be a little bit different client by client, then we can assign this role. And then when we apply a template, Double will go, oh, okay, so you have your manager is Erica. Let's go ahead and plug that in on that task, which can save us loads of time in actually being able to assign those tasks. The final kind of important piece, like Jody mentioned, is it makes reassigning a whole lot easier. So if we have somebody that our team is transitioning, we have a new team member on board, so everything slightly shifts. Or somebody's going to be out for, let's say, maternity leave. It's a bigger leave. We want to reassign those tasks, but I don't want to go task by task by task by task and reassign those. Like, gosh, can you ask me for a worse way to spend my January? It'd be that. So this can also help in that aspect of reassigning. So quick 30-second version, client lists, you can get some visibility and filter down. Makes applying your templates and assigning those individual tasks for setting up a client a little bit easier. And it also makes reassigning quite a bit easier as well. So those are kind of your main 3 takeaways when it comes to roles.
And one important note for the templates is have your users assigned in those roles before you drop in the template, because that's what it's looking for. If they're blank and you drop in the template, all of the tasks will be blank.
Yeah, it doesn't know how to fill in
It
those
doesn't go backwards. Yeah,
without this. And it doesn't
fill in
hold that
first.
role in its memory bank so that when you drop that in. So that's a really important best tip or best practice is to assign them here on the client list or up at the top of the client page first. When you're adding a new client, there's also a drop down for who do you want in these roles as well. So that's a good tip there, is making sure that you have those assigned to a user before you drop any templates in if you're going to use those. Good mention there, Jody. Okay, that being said, let's go ahead and shift just slightly. Now, we had a couple of questions about how best to signal when a task is ready for the next person in line, like when it's ready for review. So, on the like master client status, we can mark that an entire client is ready for review. We can also do things on the task level if there is something that we have, let's say, like a subcontractor doing that initial work, but we want to check it before we completely write it off and go on to the next piece. So, Jody, if you don't mind showing the two versions of how we can kind of mark that task ready for review or pass it to the next person.
Sure. So first is having a custom status called ready for review. That again is going to be up in your practice settings on that workflows tab. Scroll down to task statuses down here at the bottom, and you can customize that. So you can add in ready for review. Um, and then if you do that, you can use your task list, so your master task list, to sort and filter by ready for review and have a saved view for that to be able to see when it's ready for you. Um, I'll switch over to the task list in just a minute to be able to highlight that. The other option is a newer feature that has come out called sign-offs, where you can add an extra check. So if Erica's the first one doing it, but I am going to come back after she's done and review it and then have the final mark it complete, we can add in this sign off, which is more automated. So there are notifications that come out when Erica signs off that she's completed it. Then me, as the next person in line for the sign offs, I will get an email notification saying, Erica has done this task. It is ready for your sign off. It's ready for your turn. And again, that also can be seen in the task list as well. So for both of these options, you can have saved views in the task list to assist with that. Before I switch to the task list, is there anything else here, Erica, that we want to highlight?
I think I just want to make sure to enforce the actual workflow here so that team member, instead of marking this task as done, if you're using the task status, you would have the process be to update that not started over on the far right-hand side to ready for review if you were going to use that function. If you were going to use sign-offs, then I, as the first person, would actually click that sign-off button and it's going to capture like a timestamp and then send a notification to the next person in line. So just wanted to cover that like actual tangible workflow either way. But with that being said, for the person that's reviewing, let's definitely go over to the task list and show how I can do that without having to go through each and every client and look for the ones that are marked ready for review. Because we don't want to make
Yes.
this be more work. We want to be able to utilize the task list to kind of filter that down and capture across all clients. So I think
Right.
that'll be a good transition there.
Great. So from the task list, you would be, if you're using that first one, the ready for review status option for the task, you would come here to the status column and filter everything. So turn everything off and only select ready for review. And let that filter through so that you're only seeing the ones that are marked ready for you. And then you can go about your day here to review that, mark them complete, etc. And then if you want to keep this, come up here and click Save View, name it as a new one, and then you'll have that here from your drop down as an option to revisit. And that's sticky. So if you are on the ready for review saved view, um, and that's the last one you look at, then the next time you come in here, that'll be the first thing that'll show.
Yep, and tangibly, one other thing to add here, as a manager, if or the person that is reviewing, you can use this list, click on the actual task itself to either mark it as mark it as done from here, or go directly to that task on the client page. So there's some easier navigation to get you where you need to go from this list as well. So just wanted to kind of
Yeah.
cover that. Um, I might have missed it, but did you cover how to show sign-offs if
Yep,
that's the
just
route that
about to
you're
do that.
going?
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful.
So sign-offs are actually a quick filter that you can do. So requires my sign-off is a special filter right here, this little funnel looking thing. You can say requires my sign off and do a quick filter for that. But I do need to, so this is the one that we were working on as the example. It's going to be under both. But if you're not using that status, you can then come here and select all of them. And then you'll have a list of all sign offs, regardless of the status. So this one says not started, but it was marked off. So now it's ready for me to be the next person to sign off. If you are using the sign offs, if you come here to edit your columns, you can turn on more columns related to the sign offs. So I can turn off or turn on sign offs and turn on the next person here. And that's going to add in some additional columns. And then I'm going to filter by requires mine again. So you can see how those look. So here, the sign-offs, it'll tell you how many sign-offs are on that task. So this one has three. It's going to filter through three people. And then who is the next person in line to sign off? The person who's next here, that's like they're up. They now have the responsibility of that task to do the next sign off. And then once all members of the sign off have done it, it'll automatically change to done.
Yep, amazing. So that's your workflow and how to essentially your options, your workflow, and then what it looks like as that person who's reviewing to go find either of those. So hopefully that helps when it comes to how do we pass things back and forth without just having to have a separate Slack channel for I'm passing this over to you next and bombarding everybody with those. So
Yeah.
feel
And
free to
again,
drop any
save
other
those views.
questions. Oh, yes, save those views. That's massively helpful. So keep dropping questions in if there's anything else on sign-offs or task statuses, but we'll go ahead and move on to the next one. So Jody, you might go back to one of the client pages. This is a
Yeah.
super common question. I don't have a fix for this one, but I think it's good to like put it out there and put the feature request. So we got a question about in the custom tasks area. So that's at the very top. The default section is general. We can add more sections to it. But for these, can we order them in due date order or sort them or do literally anything so they're not jumbled? Unfortunately, the answer right now is no, and I haven't found a workaround other than just clicking in the middle of the task and dragging and dropping. So you can do that, but there's not like a quick filter. You're not missing a button here. It's just not built in at this time. So I'm going to drop the canny or the feature request so that you guys can upvote. What upvoting means is it does get more visibility to the double team that this is an important feature that we all want. That's kind of the tangible bits, but it also means that you get a notification when that's updated. That feature is rolled out too. So that one's a quick, unfortunate no, but very common question on that side.
While we're talking about due dates, though, I'm going to toss
Yeah.
in a quick tip in case somebody wants to see more in the due soon. So by default, due soon is going to show you anything due within the next 7 days. Anything past 7 days is going to be here on your due later. If you want to see more tasks in this area, some people are like, no, I don't want to see any more than just the week ahead. But for those who do want to see further ahead in the due soon, you can come up to your practice settings. And I believe I have to remember where it is. Workflows. No, it's on your section manager. So under section manager, default display for due soon tasks. You can choose to be 2 weeks or a full month view of what's due soon. So you can edit this if you are somebody who wants to see further ahead on that due soon tab. Um, Otherwise, it defaults to 7 days. You're muted, Erica.
Darn it. Thank you. I would have kept talking forever. So good catch. That's one of those that kind of slipped in as a feature update behind the scenes that we can shift that. So I'm glad that you mentioned that one, Jody. Beautiful. Next up, we got asked a couple of questions about best workflow when it comes to double receipts. So, do you start in the accounting software and do all of your bank feeds and then come over to double? Do you do these ones first? And then, Jody, I have a secondary question that came in the chat. So, I'll let you answer that one first and then I'll
Okay,
tag on another piece.
sure. All right, so for those that have receipts turned on, it's going to all live underneath your client uploads area. With receipts turned on, you, in additions to the upload inbox, you have the transaction files down here. So once something has been processed through the inbox, it comes down to your transaction files. Here's where you can either match it to something that's already in the accounting software or post it to the software. Um, I think this is definitely an area where you can choose your own path. What do you prefer? So maybe try it out both ways to figure out what feels most comfortable for you. I don't think there's not a hard and fast, this is the right way and the only way to do it. It's flexible. You can go either way. You can either go through your transactions here, your receipts, process them, post them, and then go into like QuickBooks and match and find and go through your bank feed. Or you can do it the other way. Go through the bank feed, post everything there, then come here to match whatever's been according. And that's actually how I personally do it. I've tried it both ways, and my personal preference is to categorize my bank feed first and then come into my receipts and match. And I am known for leaving some here in the transaction files until I see it come through the bank feed. For me personally, I feel like I have a better grasp of like what's outstanding. Um, Again, personal preference there. The reason that that's my personal preference is because once you've processed something through the transactions files table here, so say I were to post this, posting it means it gets pushed to the general ledger, it's out there, and it gets moved here to the posted transactions table. So I'll open that up. Once it's here in this table, there are some limitations on what you're able to do to change it. So yes, you can still click in to change the vendor, add some description notes. You can change the account, the split. Like there are still things that you can do to update it. And of course, that pushes to the accounting software. What we don't have is the ability to undo it. So the actions here, it's just letting us download the file. There's not an undo to push it back out to the transaction table to be able to be matched again or found. Now, if you post it here and you go into your QuickBooks bank feed, in theory, if everything is aligned perfectly, it'll come up as a match for you. But I have found in the past where like something was just off enough, I couldn't update it. I ended up having to it either just sat here without actually getting matched, or I had to do like a little bit of duplicate work or deleting some things in QuickBooks. For me personally, it got a little bit messy, which is why I landed on I want to process everything through QuickBooks first and then come in here to do it this way. You do have the ability. Okay, let me scroll over to move the file. So if you've got the file here, the attachment in double, you can move it. So if you do have like, oh, the transaction came through differently, it was split between two different things instead of being one, that kind of thing, you can move it, but that general ledger piece still stays there. So that it may end up duplicating a transaction, which you would then clean up inside of QuickBooks. So hopefully I rambled on for a little bit there, Erica, but hopefully that kind of gave a little bit of perspective for that. But The technical answer is you can do it either way.
Either way is totally fine. And I think there's people that fall on either side of that camp. But I'm glad you explained at least what gets you toward the reason that you go through it, just so everybody has that full visibility. I think this is one of those that's hard to figure out this feature unless you turn it on for a client and then you're kind of figuring it out as you go. So I'm glad
Yeah.
you were able to share your perspective there.
It's
On
always good to
that,
do a little testing on your own.
yes, yes. All
Figure out what
for
works best for
trying
you.
it out on your own firm or on one client before you dive into everybody, just to get your own kind of workflows and stuff worked out, and prevent a big cleanup job. That's always the worst. Okay, so tandem question, or kind of tangential question is a better way to say that. So Erin asked a lovely question that I've actually heard before. So uh, she's transitioning from HubDoc over to double receipts, has about 1,000 documents to pull over. So just generally, like any tips that you would recommend, Jody, on how to get those in, or if rules might be able to help. Anything that you would kind of think through if you were in those shoes, even if that answer is, oh, good golly, girl, big deep breath, first and foremost.
Yes, that is like a okay, I'm with you. That's gonna be it's gonna be a lot of manual work to get started and transition over. A few tips is being able to like, kind of do things in bulk. So you can add files and you can just dump everything in here if you want. You can add files from here, and select multiples. There is a way to, let me move faces here, trying to see. Okay, so there is a way to turn on auto scanning. Right now, for this client, for our demo, we don't have it turned on so that we could manually see it here and walk through that process. But you can turn on auto scan, which means that it's as soon as you upload them, it's going to start the process of scanning it and preparing it for the files down here. So that would be one thing to kind of save a little bit of time. Otherwise, you can, bulk select and I thought there was a bulk select and scan, but now I'm not seeing that. And you'd have to click one by one to scan. So I would highly recommend turn on auto scanning if you're doing a massive upload, um, for that, so that you don't have to click one by one to scan that. There are rules. So if you have a lot and you already know specific things, that would be another huge time saver is just go ahead and click on rules and start setting them up. Just follow the prompts, and walk through that. That's going to help get those that are, your regular transactions, the things that are just cookie cutter. I don't really need to review these. If it ticks all of these boxes, let's process it. That's going to be helpful to kind of group all of those together. You can then filter, like, is there a match found? Is there not a match found? So kind of bulk going through them that way. Utilize the table as best you can, because the more you can group things together, the faster you can process through it. So if there's a match found, maybe you only show those and process through them quickly, so that the ones that are going to take more thought, more review, you leave those for last. There are other areas in here as well that you can filter and sort by. So that would be, you can, the way the files are named, if you have control over that ahead of time, that could be helpful as well. Um, but you can, like I said, sort and filter this to group them to make that processing through it faster. But for a huge file shift like that, it is going to take some front end cleanup and manual work through it. But hopefully those little tips help.
Yeah, so I think your biggest tips are going to be those like auto scans and then
It's up here.
processing through to chunk things down. So all of my journal entries, let's go do those. All of my expenses, let's go do those. That sort of thing, just to give yourself the best chance so that you're not going one by one by one by one by one. I think that's
Yeah.
the biggest downfall when you're trying to do big bulk things like that. So rules are definitely going to be your friend when possible, but I think
Yep.
chunking it down in auto scan are going to be your best tips here, Aaron.
And you do have the ability to, you should be able to, there are some bulk actions available as well. So that's another thing is if
Once
you do
it's
have
in the
everything
transaction file
grouped,
section. Yeah.
yep, once it's here. you've got the ability to update. So that can be helpful too. Anytime you're doing big file loads, anything you can do in bulk is going to help save you time.
Exactly. Actually, one tandem on top of that, have you found that if you set up a rule here in double that it overwrites QBO rules? I haven't played with that personally. So my answer
They're
would be I have
independent
no
of each
idea.
other
Okay.
here. They're independent. Um,
Beautiful.
yeah.
Beautiful. Alrighty. Chugging right along. So that is basics on receipts, all things receipts. Um, let's go. Let me scan here and see if there's any others that are on this page for you. Jody, is there an area to see all client uploads that haven't been processed other than going into each client account? Like, is that something that we can see on the client list potentially? Amy had a really
Yes
good
and
question
no.
there.
So yes and no. It's going to show you. Let's see. We had four in the uploads that weren't in the transaction files. So let me turn on this column. Um, why am I not seeing it? Is
Yep.
that the one I want?
Uploaded files,
No,
actually.
upload it. There you go.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so this is the column. This is default on your client list when you come in. So it's going to be right next to the rest of the client portal, which I'll turn on too. And I'm going to turn off that because I don't need it. Okay. So the example that we were looking at was growth custom. What did it do? We're being wonky today. So it is showing 8. Now it's going to show you a picture here, or a number here. When you click on it, it's going to take you straight in. So like the client portal, I can click on that. It's going to overlay. I can quickly review without going to the client page. But the client upload
Uploads.
section, it's going to give you a number. And if you click on it, it's going to take you to the uploads. So it takes you all the way in and it's going to show you what's available there. So it showed me 8. So it's showing that I have 4 items here, 4 items here. So it's going to show you everything that's still in this area. So that's going to be the closest we can get is just seeing the number on the client page to know how many have not been reviewed or processed.
Yeah, Amy, so you're not missing anything. It's not like the client portal where you can do that overlay and kind of work through outside of going to the actual client pages and having them
Yeah,
upload individually. Really good feature request though, for sure.
yeah,
Alrighty. Jody, ready for the next one?
yeah.
Okay, we are going to let's go into growth custom and do one more question on the like client page, and
Hmm.
then we'll bounce over.
Okay.
Quick, I answered in the chat, but for anybody who didn't see it, before we move completely on from receipts, receipts is a QBO only feature right now. There are plenty of feature requests. I do believe that they're building it out for zero, but just a good one to note that that is a QBO only feature for right now. Okay, so here, Bonnie has a question about the cover sheet on financials. And do we have any tips on how to customize that for year-end financials
Mm,
specifically?
it's a good question. We are limited. I know
I
that
think
there's a
it needs
feature
some
request out
updates
there.
here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a feature request out there to have like an extra space for year end. So we are reporting when we publish them, it's one per close period. That's all we have. So we get, if you're a monthly client, you get 12 reports that can be published in there. So one per closed period. There's a lot of people who would like to have an extra period available for like a quarterly report that gets updated or an extra one for year-end report. So when it comes to year end, if you're working in December and you're closing out December and the year end there, you have to choose between whether you want to upload December month end report or you're going to do the entire year report to just for publishing, that's our limitation there. Um, Let me actually go back to December close. Let that refresh. The short answer is going to be we are very limited. So you're not missing anything. We don't have that many options here. The one thing that we found, I think, wasn't it underneath the executive summary, Erica, where we can let this load. Come on. Um, doo, doo, doo.
I know this is when I
Here we
feel
go.
like I need some hold or elevator music.
So under configure page, the aggregation is what has shifted things in the past, and I don't know if that's still the case. Um, Monthly, if I do the year and click save, this is the one area I have found loads the slowest for me. That's my reports. So I've changed it on the executive summary to be yearly. And now here it's going to show just the year. So that is what you, so for when you update that space on the executive summary, it will change what's written here underneath financial report. That's the extent for the cover page. Um,
Yep. I think most people are using like the content page or anything else to give more context that this is a year-end report. Um, but that's a really good call out, Jody, that that does
this also
change.
changes this information too, though. So
Yeah.
it's changing it on your cover page, but it's also like,
And
what are we including here? Now you can, I believe you can set that and then remove the executive summary if you don't want this information there. I changed it to quarterly and it still just shows December 2025.
okay,
So doing that annual or
is going to be our
yearly
best bet there. Yeah.
is what will change it from having a single month on there to just the year on there. I think that's the extent of our flexibility here.
Adjustment. Yeah, exactly. And then let's add on a quick question. So, Kelly, great question here about what the image page can be used for. There's lots of different options here, but the most creative that I've seen in the community is if you have a page in QBO that you don't, or like a different reporting software, that you don't need it to be clickable or anything like that. I just want to be able to show this. I can screenshot and use that image page to kind of merge a report that I may not be able to use in Double without doing a custom report that's just that. So I've seen that be kind of a workaround page that we're bringing over a screenshot from another system, a POS system, a like different reporting software, something like that. So that's been kind of a creative version that I've seen. Um,
Downside is it's one page. Have you
yeah,
tested
it
that to
is.
see if you can upload multiple images?
I haven't actually. That'd be a good one to play around with.
I'm imagining that it's only one. So just be mindful of that. There's probably still limitations there, but
Yeah. And then Jody, really quick, will you see if you can edit the name of the content page? I just want to make sure that she's not missing anything. You can edit content, but
yep, right here.
not. Oh, okay.
Title.
So if you hit go onto the content page,
Ooh,
hit edit content, and you can change the title there, Kelly. So that one's a sneaky one, but glad you found that, Jody.
yeah. So it'll change it here and then on table of contents, it'll reflect it. It's not going to reflect it here. It'll still say content page on your view,
Side.
but what's presented to the client, it'll say whatever you change it to.
Nice. Good
And
workaround
again,
there.
that's here on edit content. And that's actually going to be the case for most pages now. They've updated that. So even all of your reports here, all your financial statements, if you want to rename these to anything, click on this configure page. And if it's available, it'll tell you right here, click custom page title, and then you can edit to your heart's content.
Yeah, that's a
Rename
newer one
those,
that's
and
out.
those will reflect on the table of contents.
Yeah, exactly. Erin, if you don't see some of those pages or anybody who's not seeing some of those pages that wants to play with it, just hit add page and then you'll have the full list there. Amazing. Okay,
Connie.
I'm glad. Oh, yep, go ahead.
Oh, hi, ma'am. Miss Clinton. Actually, Ed from Soup School. Yes, hello. Yes, ma'am. We actually received the.
There we go. Okay, moving right along. Okay, so we took a really nice detour into client reports. I'm glad we did that. And Kelly, yes, only one content and one image page right now. So you're not missing anything there. We can't have multiple at this point in time. That would make a really good feature request as well. Okay, jumping around here a little bit. Jody, let's go to recurring reminders about client portal questions, if you don't mind shifting gears.
Yep. Okay, so recurring reminders. This is going to be in our client settings. I mean, our practice settings. Let me open those up. So this is the recurring reminders right now. This is firm wide setting. So it's going to be in your practice settings on the client portal page. Your reminders, it's the first one here. Um, there are lots of feature requests out there for more nuances here. So like the ability to be able to set the frequency and the date and all of that per client, that feature request is out there. Being able to mix up like which contacts receive the reminder, there are feature requests out there. Right now, as of today, we have one space to be able to set this, and it is set for all clients across the board. So again, it's going to be underneath Client Portal, under your reminders. You have the ability here to choose the frequency, weekly or monthly. Then you can decide, is it every week? Is it every month? Every three? Whatever. You can edit that here. You can choose the day when it starts and then the time that you want it to go out. Once you click save, you'll have the ability to add a second one. So you can only have up to two. The reminder is going to be exactly the same. So there's only one reminder email in your email templates that this pulls from. So if you have two reminders set up, it's just the same email goes out both times, or the same text goes out both times. So again, this is a practice level setting. The ability to turn it on or off is at the client level. So if you're already working here in your settings, you can come over to all client settings, and then you're going to see um, where I gotta, this is another one where we got a feature request for being able to scroll over because it's at the bottom.
Jody, what I usually do, just for anybody who does not want to scroll, is hit Command or Control and then minus to zoom out on the page, and then you can see all of the
Oh,
columns
yeah,
without having to scroll.
good call.
Quick tip
But
there.
yes, the client portal um, reminders here. You can turn them on or off at the client level. So if they're on, whatever you've set up here in the client portal practice settings, that's when it'll go out. But you do have the ability to turn it on or off for each client. To see all of your clients, you have it here. Otherwise, at the client level, you come to the portal settings and you have the ability to turn them on or off here. Again, this is going to be for all clients, I mean, for all contacts of a client. We do not yet have the ability to turn reminders on or off at the contact level, but you can at the client level here. That was a lot. I'm going to pause.
Yep, you're good. So, we set up the frequency in our practice settings, then we turn it on or off per client. And a really important thing to understand is these do not send if a client, like if that contact has answered all of their questions, they are not going to get a reminder because it's Thursday to go in and answer portal questions and they go in there and there's nothing. That's a really, really, really important feature to understand, especially if you're thinking about setting up multiple per week. So maybe I do Monday to catch anybody, hey, top of the week, here's your client portal questions. And then I catch people on Thursday for anybody that missed it, that I do need those answers. That doesn't mean that everybody is going to get pinged Monday and Thursday. It's just for those clients who have pending questions. So I think that's a really important one that a lot of us get really nervous about is like, well, I don't want to set up multiples and just ping all my like A students or
Yeah.
that one crabby one who is going to be my crabby one forever. Really important thing to note that it's just there is some smart logic on the back end that they will only get that reminder if there's an open question that they haven't answered. So that's
Yeah. So
also
that's
really
the
important to
trigger.
exactly. That's the trigger there. If they have open questions, then they get the reminder. If they don't, they get no reminder. So no harm, no foul there. Um, okay. Kelly, I'll see if I can find a feature request on freezing that client name column in all client settings. I am 90% sure it's out there. But I'll see if I can find that for you. One tandem question on automated reminders that popped in. Melissa, you have a good one. So if I send a question and select two recipients, right? So we have assignable questions turned on. We're selecting it goes to these two contacts. Does it go away if one of them answers? Yes. So it counts that
Because it's
as an
answered.
answered question for both of them. So that should not if everything is working in the background, we'll preface that way. If it is not, and you get an issue where this is not the case, we need to write into double chat and let them know. But in tangibility, if anyone answers that question, regardless of who, like how many people it's assigned to, that counts as an answered question, and somebody should not get a reminder that they
Right.
have open questions if somebody else has answered that question. So,
So
Melissa, if
think
you're
of it the
running
way
into the
that it's,
opposite, let's
yeah.
definitely pop into chat.
The way that I like to think about it is you've got the waiting, and on this client, it's we're waiting for 10. So because we're waiting, they're going to get the reminder. If they answer the question, that shifts over to ready. So regardless of which contact answers it, if that question moves from waiting to ready, anything that's in the ready area, that's not going to trigger the reminder. So it'll only be the ones that are sitting waiting.
And if you will go into Portal really quickly, Jody, and go to that nifty client preview
Our preview?
section,
Yeah.
yeah, then we can see what this looks like when a client answers a question. So if you go to either of our questions, they can toggle over to the answered
Let me do one
um,
that, let's see. Do we have
checkbox.
another one? Trying to see.
That
So
way, if
here's one that's
somebody answered
resolved.
that question, like somebody else answered that and they want to be able to go see the answered or to go open up a previously resolved, they do have the capability on their end. So good to know
They just
there.
have to toggle this on. By default, it's off so that they clear their questions. But they can toggle that on, and that'll just be like a client training piece
Yeah.
to be able to show that.
Beautiful. Okay, we are getting close on time, but I want to make sure that we cover a
Ooh,
couple of questions that have time goes by so fast on these. Okay, let's make sure that we answer a couple of really important ones. So I got a lot of questions about what you can create templates out of. So I think a lot of us know about task templates, but let's quickly cover those in case that's new for anybody, because the important thing to understand is we do not have to create each task for each and every client individually. We can definitely create templates that either give us a task or that give us a task with a checklist or
yeah,
with a sign off or something like that to be able to create that structure and apply it across multiple clients. So
yeah.
that's a really important
All
one
right,
to
so
understand.
what can be templatized? From if you're on a client page, come to this drop down to open up the template manager. If you're on the client page, you'll see the templates at the top in the navigation bar. Either place, it'll overlay, your template manager overlays on whatever screen you're on. So when you're here, open this up, start clicking around. That's how that's the easiest way to figure out like what can I do? And that's how a great way to explore software like this. And so on the template manager, it defaults to tasks. So a lot of us live here and forget that there are other spaces, other things that we can create templates for. So we've done a world of things with task templates as we've been talking about, to where you can add in a new one. It gives you options down here to be able to customize tasks, and then you can apply those to clients. We've done this numerous times. I want to highlight some of the other areas. So you have email templates, both for clients and for vendors. So for your vendors, you've got your default W-9 requests and reminders. You can add a new vendor email here as well, so that when you are sending emails or reminders to vendors for those W-9s, any kind of vendor request, you can select your own drafts as well. So keep that in mind that there are
And
more that you can do there.
quick tip,
Same thing
any
with
of
our
those that
client emails.
have, sorry to jump in, any
Go
of
ahead.
those that have the little lock just mean that you cannot delete, that something else in the system is going to use that. That does not mean that you cannot edit the text
You
on
can
that. I think that's really
definitely
important
edit.
because if this is not how you would say it, then go in here and edit. Just make sure to hit save template at the very top right next to create email draft. But I see a lot of confusion about that because it has that lock. So I assume I can't do anything with it. Now, that just means you can't delete it, but you can change the wording on that. So sorry to
Right.
interject. Continue
No,
on your
that's
train, but
perfect.
wanted to make sure that was in there.
Yeah. Well, that's what we're talking about. Is like, what can we templatize? You can edit and adjust all of the ones that are default in here. So we were talking earlier about the recurring reminders, that automatic reminder that goes out to our clients. That email is right here at the top, reminder email. It has a note here that this is the email that will be sent to your clients. You can come in here and adjust the subject. You can edit the body of this to be whatever it is that you want it to be for that reminder. But this is the one and only email that will be used for those auto reminders. But adjust it however you want. But again, you can click add new to add in as many email templates as you would like. For those that are using texting with their clients, you have text templates as well. There are two in here, an intro and a reminder text that are default. Again, this is the one that will be used if you have that enabled for auto reminders. Edit this to your heart's content. Make sure you hit save. Uh, you can also add in new ones. Quick note about text, it is a one-way thing. You're not going to be able to receive responses from text, but this is a great way to just push notifications or push information to your client to give them reminders or direction.
And that's a really good reminder on text is that's probably a pretty good blurb to add to your text at the very bottom. This is a one way we do not check this number to be able to
No
ask us
reply
questions
number.
or respond exactly. Something about that so that you don't get that one crabby client that's like, I've texted you all week and you didn't check anything. Like yes, but do need to let you know that that's not possible. Um, on templates, I know you're going here. Questions is another really good one that I see a lot for if you have really common questions. So is this an owner's draw? Is this a personal or business expense? If you see that a lot, really good ones to kind of know
These are
and
your
be able to
transaction
play with.
questions.
Yes, really good mention there. Um, the other one I want to highlight, just because we're getting short on time and I want to make sure that this is noted, is notes. Um,
Yes.
so go ahead and roll on with that one.
Yeah. So notes and resources. These are two different areas that you have available in the client. So the resources, this is going to be your client portal. This is the client facing information that goes on their resources tab in their portal. You can template that. Notes is another big one that is become more available. They've upgraded it, they've enhanced it. It's more accessible now than it has ever been, which is fantastic. You can template that as well. So if you're doing year-end notes for CPA, you could have a template for that that tracks all the information that you want. If you have SOPs that you're saving in notes sections, you can draft that template there. All of that's going to be available to be able to be used in um, at the client level in their notes there. So yes, another big one. And then of course, for those who are using like the tax suite or have that accessible, your organizers and signatures are also here in the templates. Not going to go into reporting, but reporting has
It's a
templates as
whole
well.
rabbit hole itself.
So
Exactly.
another
That is
huge rabbit
an
hole,
area that
but
we can
there's a lot
templatize.
that you can template.
But I'm going to tag on one quick question from Amy. So I know a lot of people don't have tax on. So Amy, definitely reach out to us if you want to go more in depth with this. But for anybody who is setting up tax organizers or the signatures and eDocs, one of my biggest tips is to apply it to an unconnected client or to your own firm so that you can see what it looks like on the client side. You can also now preview, which is really cool, but being able to actually go and see their view inside of the client portal is really, really helpful for a lot of like client training and just debugging. The other thing that I'll say is if you are creating a variation, so you have like your basic tax organizer and then you have a different variation of that for tax organizer, if I know that they bought a home this year for random example, then I would create your baseline and make a duplicate and then just adjust your duplicate. So that's really common in all of our templates is make your baseline and then adjust from there if you have a variation. But a couple of quick tips there, Amy. Definitely reach out to us if you have more questions, though, for sure. Okay, I know we're zipping through these because I know we're all really excited about. There's so many questions, which is awesome. The one that I want to cover quickly that is a template, a weighted template that we do not technically have as a template. It's a workaround, is client details. So
Mm.
that is one that I want to cover really quickly. And that is the best thing that I've found is to create an unconnected client, just called your sample client or your example client, or however you would like to call it. You don't have a template, but that is one area that you can create that unconnected client. That is uncharged because it's not connected to QuickBooks or Xero, but allows you to go in and be able to make that same formatting and just copy paste. So you can create a note template if you wanted to drop that note in and then just copy the note over to a client detail section, or we can create it in a sample client. Those are kind of my two best workarounds. I know that's a common question because we don't have a template in there.
Yeah, that was going to be my thing is if you didn't want to have an extra unconnected client for that purpose, having you can build it out here. Um, Build it out here, save it, and then at your client level, you can grab that template. So if I were
From
to
there.
add
Yep.
and come here and select client details template, I can just open it, copy that here. Don't have to add
And
it,
then just
just
tab
copy
over.
it, close, close,
You
and
can
then
actually go from that
paste.
same page if you go on info and just
Oh,
tab
that's
over to
true.
details instead.
Yes. Yes, exactly. So you can grab
So
that and then paste it in
go to
here.
details.
Would be pretty smooth way of doing it. But I know
Yeah,
we're
that
at
would at least be
time.
my recommendation. Exactly. I know. We'll stay on for a couple more questions that we got actively in the chat. I want to make sure everybody got those questions answered for everybody who's live. For anybody that needs to hop, totally okay. Thanks for joining us today in our hopping around kind of question and answer session today. There's plenty of additional resources on our website or our YouTube channel if you want to go back and see deeper dives that we've done similar to these, but a whole session on templates or a whole session on roles. So plenty of options there. And then for anybody who needs additional brainstorming, some sort of templates to do some team training for new teammates or who just wants help from the get-go, actually setting up double or transitioning from another system, reach out to us. That's all we do. And we specialize in this specifically. So, regardless of where you fall on the spectrum, we're absolutely happy to help and be that second set of eyes or be able to actually help get some hands on your account and get adjustments made. So, quick little blurb there for anybody who wants to dive more into resources or who needs some additional help from here. Okay, so Jody, the couple that I had still here hanging out in the chat is we covered Laura's. Do, 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 do. Oh, is client uploads? Let me find that question. Kate asked, how do you handle client uploads not related to a question or non-transaction question? Because if you don't move the document, it still shows up on the client list. So
Hmm.
just wanted to kind of cover best practice
Yep.
there.
Yep. So if they upload something and you don't move it out of here, it's going to stay here permanently. So, wherever you're keeping files for your clients, if you are keeping that here in double, then you can just click to move it and move it to your custom folder. Move it anywhere you want it to go. You can move it to auto organize tasks. So if it's something like a statement and you want to attach it to the task for that reconciliation for that month, you can move that there. So you have a variety of areas where you can move it. If you are not keeping files inside of Double or attached to anything in Double, you can then download it, and once you've downloaded it and securely put it where you want it for safekeeping, then you would just come in here and delete it. So either move it to wherever you want it for safekeeping, or download it for wherever you're putting it in safekeeping and then delete. So move or download and delete.
And sometimes that gets a little bit confusing for clients, but I think my honest answer would be a little bit of client training. So if we are going to move it to a different area, like a different folder, and then mark that visible for the client, I would just show them how to go over to their files section to be able to navigate those. So if we go into preview, then we can kind of see what this is going to look like, but they can go over to files and see any of those that are in the client uploads inbox, or they can search one specifically. They can see in folders, stuff like that. So Kate, I know that's not the best answer, but that's my consulting answer is I would say move it out so that it's not showing on your client list and then do a little bit of client training, even just filming a Loom and grabbing just this section of the screen and being like, hey, any files that you can't find, go over here and then you can search, you can go kind of look wherever. So that would at least be my suggestion, Kate. I hope that helps.
And one other quick one is if you're not
Yeah.
filing them, but you just want to get them out of there, you can always create a custom folder that is just, like processed files, processed
Ooh, yeah,
uploads. And so
that's
that
a
it
great
moves
mention.
it from the auto organized uploads inbox. It'll move it from there if you need to, and it'll put it into your custom processed. And then you can make that visible to your client, make those files visible, and then they can still access them from that files as well. So you can always
Yeah.
have you can have a temporary folder in there where it just sits for a little bit till you process it. You can just have it as a catch-all if you are worried about deleting it from the uploads. That's always a safe way to do it too.
Yep. So lots of options there. Just be careful about your own process within your team and making sure that that's comfortable for everybody so that there is a best practice and then doing a little bit of client training for where they can find those. Kelly, you asked an amazing question that I want to make sure that we get to. So can we do a quick overview on the anchor to double integration? So that's a newer one that came out this year. I am happy to give you the quick blurb. And then Kelly, this is my like nerdy obsession is with Zaps, and I could talk way too much. So I'm not going to give you the like full word vomit answer because it's too long, but I'll give you the like short, dirty version, and then let me know if you want to dive deeper into this. So, Anchor, there's a lot that we can do with Zaps just generally, like create a new client, add a contact, apply a template. There is a good whole host, even update properties. Okay. That's Zaps in general. Now, Anchor and Double specifically integrated so that if you have somebody who completes a contract, then you can set up automatic triggers that you don't even have to go into Zapier. You just do it straight from Anchor, the platform that you're already semi-comfortable in, and you can have it create a new client or contact. Now, this is smart to some degree that if it sees that you already have that client or contact, it's not going to create a duplicate unless the naming is weird. Like there's some asterisk in there for sure, but it's at least not going to create one that is the exact same of what you have in there before. So, biggest piece of that is being able to, once they sign the contract, have that automatically create the client, create the contact on there. Now, depending on what package they chose, you can also map those to certain templates, which I think is really like nerdy cool. That if they bought my payroll for Gusto, then I can have it automatically create that new client, add the contact, and then also go in and add that template for me. Now, I'm going to still have to go in and add my due dates and update my preparer, reviewer, manager. There's still going to be stuff that I have to update on my end, but it can at least take some of the tediousness of creating the new client and adding those templates in. So, Kelly, I'm going to pause myself there so I don't ramble for 25 minutes about that. But like I said, holler if you want more into that on the double integration. Okay. Last one I want to end on for this session, and then maybe we just roll forward some of the questions into next session because I got more pre-submitted than we had time for. The last one I want to cover is archiving. I've heard a couple of questions about that, and I think that one's a good one to end and wrap up on.
Sure. Okay, so if you need to archive a client, here is the steps to do that. Pretty easy to do. So you just click the expand button here on the side to be able to see all of the closes, and then come over to client options. If you are on a smaller screen, you might have to scroll over or zoom out to be able to see this, but your client options here will give you the ability to either delete or archive. Deleting is that it is gone. Everything about that client disappears, not to be brought back. Archive is a way of just freezing everything where it is, essentially, and putting it in the back burner, put it in the back of the filing cabinet, where you could go get it if you really needed to. When you click to archive, it is going to come up with a prompt here to let you know what's going to happen. It will mark everything as read only. It's going to, there won't be any future changes. You'd have to like reactivate it, unarchive it to be able to make any changes to it. Anything that is outstanding, so that's all of the tasks, any questions, any comments, anything like that is going to automatically resolve. Anything that's set to recur, so like recurring tasks and all that, all of those like future recurring pieces are going to be deleted. So it's not going to continue to generate tasks in the background as time goes on. It just stops everything where it is, marks it all complete, and tucks it away for you. Um, there's a quick link here to the help article from Double for more information if you're concerned about it. But you would check all this off to confirm that you understand all of these pieces and hit Archive Client. From here, of course, it refreshes the screen. In our demo account, we have it turned on so that if a client is archived, it automatically removes it from my client list. You can come up to practice settings, go to all client settings. Archived clients are here. So you can see them. If you need to access this more, you can turn on show archived clients. This is also where you would unarch or reactivate them, is how they have it phrased. Reactivate the client here. Now, another key point here is when you archive, it breaks the connection in the background. Breaking the connection with that accounting software, if it has been connected previously, it breaks that connection and it stops it from being part of your billing. Um, so that is the answer there. If you need to look at it again, so I show it again here. That's where if you don't want it shown, you can toggle that off. But I want to show you what happens if it is still on your client list. Close that. Down here at the bottom, HSC sample client. I am able to click on it to view it. The client portal is still, wait, no, where is it? Yeah, see, everything clears out. I don't think we had contacts on this for this example, but you have it. You can't make any edits. You can't do anything. It's got a nice red bar up here at the top. If you need to do some kind of editing or you need to do anything, you have to reactivate it. But in order to get to this point, you have to access it from the client page. So you can toggle on that show, access it, and then if you want to remove it from the client page, you just come back up to practice settings, all client settings, and uncheck that.
Yep. And I think the most important things with archiving is being able to go back and reference some of those previous tasks, previous comments, previous questions or answers with your client to keep that paper trail without continuing to be charged for that client and that connection and without completely deleting it. Because I think that's the terrifying part is like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to get it to where everything lives in double, but that means that everything has to live in double. So this allows you to show it on your client list, not show it on your client list. That's kind of the more personal preference point there, but it at least lets you pause where it was without creating more tasks and just being able to freeze so you can go back and reference anything. I think that's the big thing
Right.
here. I think the only thing that I want to mention there is make sure that you have answered any like comments or lingering tasks or marked them off as you want to before you archive. I've seen some people that do the archive process early because they don't want their clients to go in and answer more questions and give them more work and upload new files and stuff like that, which makes sense, but it pauses all of the tasks and stuff as well. So just be careful and mindful about that it's going to actively pause at this point on clients end and on your end. So I would do any last minute tidying pieces that you need to before you archive, just to give yourself the space and not have that error message pop up over and over and over again. So anything else on archiving? I think that's a pretty good deep dive on that one, but just wanted to make sure,
Yeah.
Jody.
Yep.
Alrighty, friends. We'll go ahead and wrap it up here. I don't want to. I never want to get off these calls, but we'll let everybody get back to their day. That being said, there are going to be some rollover questions that we'll cover next session. Next one for us is the middle of February the 18th, and we're going to be covering recurring questions. So automating some of those client requests like statements, payroll hourly sheets, anything like that. So that's one that we didn't have time to go into, but that we'll definitely be doing a deep dive on next session. So with that being said, we will send out the recording on Friday. Thanks for spending some time with us in a crazy month in the first part of the new year. It means a ton to us that you showed up, both for us and for your business, and just getting to learn more tips and tricks along the way. So with that, we'll go ahead and close for today, but thanks for joining us, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.